Hey everybody, this is Eric Carroll with Dad Talk. Today I am here with Robert Santos. Robert, how you doing, man?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Robert, so tell everybody where you're running at.
I'm actually running for the Congressional seat, the 13th District in Ohio. It's actually by majority is Youngstown, Akron, Warren area.
Yeah, so Robert, you was telling me you're pretty passionate about the issue of fatherlessness and what's going on with our families.
I am. I personally actually grew up without a father. I'm actually divorced. I am remarried now, but I was divorced. I went through the whole process, and by living in Ohio, one of the biggest things that's wrong with Ohio is unmarried men have zero rights to their fathers. And what gets me right here in my heart is that what I had to go through the fight for my son being divorced, right now I can only imagine the fight was actually 10 times worse for the individuals who weren't married.
Now, saying that you didn't have your father and knowing that these fathers are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in family court and all these years fighting to be in their kid's life, how does that make you feel?
My heart's broken. I mean, I know right now, especially in our area, Ohio is not really too... People aren't well off. The majority in my area is actually, they get paid around $30,000 a year. So if you're working full time, you're only making 30 grand. We all know how much lawyer fees cost. And the majority of these fathers, they try to empty their change, everything they can to actually pay the fight for the kids, and they run out of money. And because they can't, they're not able to be there in their child's life.
Yep.
Which is sad.
What are some solutions, you know, if you could get in office, what are some things that you think you could do to help alleviate some of this?
One of the things I definitely would do to stop the whole unmarried individual not being able to see their child is that stuff needs to be automatic. It needs to change. Even if we still want them to go through the court process, there needs to be grants for these fathers. There needs to be assistance for these fathers. Now, yeah, there are court-appointed lawyers, but we all know, not trying to get into corruption or anything, we all know that that individual's got so much on his plate, he can't handle hundreds of free cases, and he can't give that particular case the attention it needs. So I think that needs to be more lawyers to actually offer cheaper, low cost, if not definitely free, so that father can be in that child's life.
I'm going to ask you the question that everybody, when they see this, they're going to want to know right away. If there was a bill that came out that gave a rebuttable presumption that the father was fit, willing, and able, mom was too, would you support a shared parenting bill that if parents do get divorced, because we know sometimes it happens, you've been divorced, I've been divorced twice, that they would get equal access?
Absolutely. I mean, equal access is the way to go. If you look at the statistics there, I can't even talk. The statistics is that the majority of crimes come from fatherless homes. So if we can make it easy for both parents, specifically the father, to be involved in that child's life, it would actually help out the crime. Not a lot, but it will take that one piece of the puzzle, and then we can focus on the rest.
There you got it. You heard it. Robert Santos, Ohio. If you're wanting to get shared parenting passed, he will back it. And I know that's something very important, man. We need to get people like you in office that are willing and ready to take that fight all the way, because it's a rough one.
It is. If they want more information, they can find me at electsantos.com.
I'm going to let Melissa
ask you a question. So now you're a Marine.
Yes.
So was your service brought up when you were going through family court with your son? You know, I represent a lot of service members, and the court automatically assumes that every single person that goes through family court has PTSD. I know that you're just dangerous to some extent. You know, was there anything like that in your case? Was an issue made of your service?
It was, and I'm actually glad you brought that point up, because what it is when an individual in the military actually does have PTSD, and they know they're getting divorced or going through that court thing, the way the military does it is they ask a series of questions. Do you this? Do you that? Now, majority of times they do feel a certain way, like they can't sleep at night, certain things agitate them, but they know if they answer it the way they're supposed to, they're going to lose all custody of their child. There'll be zero ways for them to actually have the child, because the courts will find them unfit. So by that being said, that father is not only injuring himself because he's not receiving the attention and medical needs that he needs, and being a father because he wants to be a father more than anything in the world, but it's all hurting both parties. I mean, because PTSD doesn't just affect the veteran, it affects the family as a whole. And the only way we can help our veterans with PTSD is working together, being a family.
You know, you're absolutely right, and I know a lot of veterans, I represent a lot of veterans that have PTSD, but then their wife might have social anxiety disorder, or she might take some Xanax when she gets upset, yet it's not viewed the same way as PTSD. Now that said, the majority of vets that I know with PTSD, they're not violent.
No,
they're not violent. They might have some anxiety, maybe some heart rate, some heart palpitations, might take the same sure, but for some reason, the PTSD with service members is more detrimental than regular anxiety. Would you agree with that?
I definitely do agree with that. I mean, there's different levels of PTSD, and majority of the time, all because someone has PTSD just means that they can't be as close as we are right now. Obviously, I don't have it, but that's all the negative effect is. They just can't be close to each other. It doesn't mean they're hostile or anything of that nature. It just has a bad rap, and we need to address the issue and not hide it.
And I think one difficult thing too is that there's really there's no definitions of family court. It's whatever the judge thinks.
Yes.
So it's the judge's perception, based upon his experience, his education, or lack thereof. But then they issue an order for your child, for your life. They don't know you, doesn't know your ex, doesn't know your child, yet this stands. So how legislatively could we address the fact that everything in family court is completely subjective, and yet you're dealing with constitutional rights, with the right to parent your child? How do we address that?
We need to have a blanket law regulation that states that unless the father, as we talked about earlier, legitimately has a history of drugs, abuse, or whatever, if he has a 100% clean record, there should be no ifs, ands, buts about it, 50%. And if the courts do anything other than that, they do need to be held accountable.
Unless you can prove unfitness.
Exactly.
Then you absolutely, I completely agree.
Brother, you're on it.
It's a pleasure.
Tell everybody where they can find you and make sure he gets in.
Tell them again.
You can find me at electsantos.com, and the one thing I do that's outside of all the other candidates is I put my personal cell phone out there. It's 330-531-1007. Even if you're not in Ohio, contact me and I'll find out that you get directed to the right person to take care of the issue.
Robert, for these fathers in Ohio right now that are fighting tooth and nail to be able to see their children, what can you leave them with?
We're there. There's people out there who understand what you're going through, and we will fight, and I will not stop until you have your child with you.
There you go, guys. Stick around. We'll be right back.